Every time. I like it every time.
Oh, right? We picked such a good song for our intro for
Yeah,
our
we did.
listeners. And you know what? We need to tag it in our show notes because it's
That's true.
open source but it is Ketsa, Why Wait?
Mm,
Etsa, Why Wait? And
why
I
wait?
am with you. I love it every time. And it was so cute. I was giggling, Shannon, because Joe heard the music and he
Yeah.
just opened the door and gave me because he knows what's about to go down.
uh, yeah, that's cute. Thank you, Joe. One of
You're
our avid listeners, right?
How are you, my friend?
I'm amazing. Thank you. How are you doing?
I am so good.
Good.
I know you're amazing and I know you're tired because
Tired. I was about to say.
we spent 32 hours together this weekend doing some
Yes.
big work, which we'll talk
Yes.
about a little later in the show for our listeners. But yeah, we
Yeah.
preach about rest and wellness, and I don't know that we did that great of a job this
You
weekend.
know, we're gonna get into it. I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? We're on Manifestation Mondays. I was like, she is overworking herself. And then I thought about my hours. I said, wait a minute. I am she. I am overworking myself. Let me get some rest.
Well, we should do our intro and then,
Yes,
well, let us first not shoot ourselves, but let's do our intro.
I like
Shall
that
we
idea.
do our
Shall
intro?
we?
As my now 2-year-old nibblings or about to be 2-year-old nibblings say, shall we?
Shall
Shall we
we?
do our intro? And then we'll get into this topic.
Yes, yes, we shall. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, a handmade shea butter company. I am a champion for your natural self care and practical business systems.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, and together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness. Welcome to our show. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. And today we're doing the wrap up
Yes.
for season 3. Can you believe it?
It's crazy. We were talking to one of my friends that I think she's back in Costa Rica now, and she asked us, no, I think it was Cameron. I think it was our lawyer that we're gonna have on. We're gonna give you um some extra information if you're on this show, okay? You get some early stuff that we're not giving anybody else. But she asked us how long we've been doing it, and it's really been all year. I can't believe we are at the end of season 3 already.
Right? That's
It's
pretty
exciting.
well. I think especially, Paul Zelzer over at Awarepreneurs says the average podcast lasts. What did we talk
I
about
think
this?
I think you
10
said
episodes?
I think you said 15, and we
Okay.
were at 17 or 19 that day.
So
Yeah.
whoop, whoop.
Whoop whoop. Yes, we are doing
Celebrating
it.
the incremental steps, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Celebrating the showing up and doing the work. And
Yeah.
for our listeners who are also avid followers of our social media, like what we were talking about before we got on is, we had a social media glitch the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And I want to give us kudos that we're showing up and doing the work, even when things go wrong. Because,
Yes.
we know that as women who are connected in
Yeah.
wisdom, things don't always go the way we expect them to. And
You, no, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I'm
no,
sorry.
I was just thinking we got to give ourselves props and kudos for we don't first of all we don't know anybody's story, right?
Right.
We see them smiling on the street or we see them grumpy on the street. We don't know what they
Right.
came with. We don't know what happened that day, what they woke up with, what's going on with their car. I had 2 or 3 friends their cars break down last week and
Mm-hmm.
one was on the way to a funeral. Like
Mm.
we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And there's a
Right.
lot of times, especially this last 18 months, that things just haven't been working the right way. And so kudos to everybody out there that's showing up and
Yes.
still doing the work when
Yes.
things aren't working out perfectly behind the scenes.
Kudos to us and to you guys. Absolutely. You ladies and the
Mhm.
guys. The guys can be included. But yes.
You amazing human beings, so we can
Right.
be gender neutral. It's
Every
a little tricky to be gender
very
neutral
important.
on a Women Connected in Wisdom
That's
podcast,
true.
but there is value in that. So
Of
yes, to
course.
you amazing human beings.
Yes. And it was really interesting this weekend, Christine, as we worked through the projects that we're working on. And I've remembered how often we talk about planners and organization. And usually, when we're talking about that and we're talking about the specific colors that I write with for specific things, I don't always spend as much time on the fact that, oh, by the way, none of this might not happen like this, like at all. Like, I know you just spent the time to write it down, but the reason you wrote it down is so you can look back at Monday until Thursday when you actually do it. So that's the beauty of it sometimes is you have a plan and then you have the flexibility to allow it to fall into place the way that it does, as you hold your responsibilities. And sometimes the priority gets changed. Maybe at the beginning of the day, the priority was to go to the bank and go to the store, and then something happens and now the priority is to rest. Well, if the store can wait and you have what you need and the you weren't going to move the money in the bank account today anyways, maybe the priority is your mental health. It is your emotional health. Get back in bed and set the alarm or do whatever you need to do, and you can have peace knowing that it's still taken care of, but you're also considering the wellness and what needs to take place right now. So absolutely.
I think that's what we keep learning. At least what I think about the last 3 seasons of the
Mm,
amazing guests we have interviewed. And I think about the different tips and tricks they have given us.
yeah.
And really, there's 8 dimensions of wellness, and we're not going to get it all right all the time.
No.
And I had a teacher one time tell me that balance is the goal, but it's almost impossible to reach balance. So it's the journey to get there that counts.
Yeah.
So, or if you reach balance, you're there for a micro nanosecond and then you're off balance another way. And I may have some yoga teachers that disagree with me on that, but but I think about, as we think about our guests from this season, and I think about the different conversations we had.
Yeah.
And, our first guest of the season was Cecile Armstrong with Be Real, Be the Real Cecile, Be
Yeah.
Brave, No Blame, No Shame, No Guilt. And
Mm-mm.
we were talking about physical wellness. And we were talking about the work she does, which is anti racism work, and how to stay physically well during that. And you and I had the privilege of meeting Cecile in person
Yes.
last weekend, all
The
the way to
real Cecile.
the real
Yes.
Cecile. How super fun was that? I
Awesome.
love that as things open back up,
Mhm.
we're going to have more opportunity for in-person meet and greets for women connected in wisdom.
Me too. Me too. It was always a highlight of my week to get up early Monday morning and come meet the ladies. And when we switched to Zoom, what is this? What is a Zoom? Like, of course, I knew what Zoom was, but it was nothing compared to being able to get together. And it
Mhm.
was really interesting because Cecile, felt at home. I'm glad that she felt welcome and it didn't feel like we were meeting for the first time, but it also didn't feel like it had been months and months since we had been in a group because we do this all the time and the energy is relatively the same, so definitely thankful to be able to walk through, like you say, the last 18 months with you ladies.
Well, and also being able to break bread together and
Yeah.
being able to, yeah, it
Yeah.
is it is very interesting. And I know that one of the things that came out of this weekend that we're thinking about
Cool.
is a virtual conference next year
Yes.
with all our speakers that have been guests on the Women in Connected Wisdom and our
Yeah.
future guests and other amazing people out there. And, we don't know. Will it be virtual or will it be in person? Or,
Mm.
who knows by the time next year comes?
Right.
Right now, we're thinking about virtual next summer.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that was one of the ideas that bubbled up out of
One
that
of
stuff.
them. We're just giving you all types of stuff today. I didn't even know we were talking about the events yet, but okay.
Right?
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking back, it makes me think about our guest, I Am Soteria,
Mhm.
which continues to be one of my top episodes. I mean, I love every episode. I just love the quality of women that are coming on our show and having conversations with us. But I Am Soteria and talking about her community art project that
Mhm.
has happened, and we'll put a link to the write up about that community event at her and her partner's coffee shop
Coffee shop.
in North Carolina. And you and I, my friend, need to schedule that field trip.
Yeah, let's do
We need
it.
to, and I bet
Yeah.
we could get Cecile to meet us because that's probably closer to her than it is to us.
Okay.
So
Let's
that's
ask
what
her.
we should consider that. Yeah, that would be super fun. Yeah, we're going to link in our show notes today. We're going to link to all the previous episodes and the updates on what our guests are up to, because
Yes.
Shannon and I follow all our guests on social media, and sometimes from our personal pages, sometimes from our Women Connected in Wisdom podcast page, which if you're not following yet, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us on both places. And that way you find out what our guests are up to and what we're up to. And you know how we end every show with hashtag Women Connected in Wisdom. You can also be a part of the conversation and let us know what's going on with you.
Yeah,
So
what are you doing? Yeah, and I've been applying a lot of this stuff and honestly, I do that with every season because I need it too, right? What are you doing that's working? Let me know, and you know what? Let me go put my feet in the grass, like Cecile said. So I've been out in the grass with my shoes off more often, and it's definitely helped. I also took some notes to make sure I remembered some of my favorite parts from this past season. But Tracy was talking about surrendering the outcomes, right? And that's really important. Like I was saying, absolutely make a plan and believe in your potential, believe in yourself, but also don't be so, well, I'll say that it's helped me, not to be so tightly wound about a situation turning out a certain way because it's almost never exactly how you thought it is or thought it would be. But what I found a lot of times is that it's better than that. If you actually look at the way the situation played out, it's better than I would have been able to play it out. If I would have been able to go do something on the day that I thought I would have, something else wouldn't have came through to make it easier, or maybe it changed where I went, which made it easier. So I love that, surrendering the outcomes. Lori
yeah, she
Johnson.
was on. Hang on, before we skip off
Yeah.
Tracy, she was on spiritual wellness
Hmm.
and absolutely about how to kind of go with the flow and listen, right? Because sometimes if we're listening, we can shift, and if we're on purpose or not on purpose, and what we are doing and
Yeah.
allowing those possibilities. That was a really good show. It
Yeah.
was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Now, you were going to mention Lori. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
great guest.
Yes. And I loved how she was saying that if our kids don't know how to spend, if they never know how to spend, they will never learn how to share or to save. And what I was also thinking is, what about to invest too, right? Because with inflation, that's making the value of your savings go down. So save, absolutely. Make sure we have nest eggs. Make sure that living expenses are covered. If you didn't learn from Corona, definitely one of the lessons I learned from Corona, right? But you also have to have your money working for you if we're going to grow wealth, if we're going to be able to maintain a certain level of lifestyle. And so investing is important too. But I love implementing it at a certain age.
Lori has been popping up the last
Mm,
couple of days on my Instagram feed. She's been doing
yeah.
these awesome lives, and they're very short, but she's giving really practical tips. Like today's was about paperwork clutter straight from
Mm,
the mailbox and vital documents. So she was identifying your vital documents and what to do with them straight from the mailbox. And I don't know about you, Shannon, but I love stuff like that because
yeah.
that paperwork is my Achilles heel. And
Mm,
so I'm like, I have friends that are like, oh, that's easier. It's not easy for me.
mm,
Like, it is one of those systems that I'm like, I'm 50, I'm in my 50s, I'm 51 years old now. Will I figure this out? So
Hmm.
I'm hoping this second half of my life with people like Lori and financial wellness, I will figure out the paper clutter
You
system
will.
or
Yeah.
anti-clutter system,
The
right?
anti-clutter. I'm with you. No, really though. And that's a question I had. What's important to keep with medical records, with financial records? How do you organize them? So go
Well, and
over to Lori's
now that
page.
so many things are electronic,
Yeah.
right? There used to be old school. I mean, I remember growing up, of course, I'm a lot older than you, about where, like, I mean, my mother would keep 7 to 10 years of paper documents. Like,
Mm,
that was file boxes upon file boxes,
right.
right? And now with things being electronic, and then what makes sense, and saving your passwords and all of that. And, I don't know if we've ever talked about Fly Lady on the show. Have we ever talked about Fly Lady?
I don't think so.
Marla, and I'm going to blank on her last name, but I'll put it in our show notes. It's a woman out of North Carolina, and I know her
Mm,
first name's Marla, but everybody called her the Fly Lady. And she was all about a cleaning system and decluttering and organizing system. And you can still go and sign up for a list. I'm pretty sure it's free. And she
mm,
sends you emails about how to like clean your home in zones and how to get organized if you're in a crisis or in an emergency. But one of the really valuable things I learned from her is always have a hot file. So have a file that's got your crucial documents like birth
mm,
certificates, social security cards, and have it in something that if you had to grab it in an instant,
mm-hmm,
everybody in the house knew where it was.
mm,
So like mine is this plastic rainbow folder. So it's not the same colors as the other file folders, or it's not and everybody in the house knows if you're looking for one of those documents, it's because they'll say, "Where's the rainbow folder?" And it has
mm,
its general location. But if it gets moved, it's also like it's easy to spot
right.
because it's a different, and it's plastic, and it's all, it's so. And I know a lot of people say also to keep those in a fireproof file cabinet or a fireproof safe
Right.
for those. And I don't know, did we talk this season, Shannon? Because I think I took the class this season about the the electronic vault called Forever. Did we talk about that on the
I
show?
don't think so. I think I would have remembered it.
Okay, it just came up when I was thinking about a fireproof,
Yeah.
because scrapbookers use this thing. It's a website called Forever.
Mm,
And so what you do is you pay for storage in blocks. So it's not like you're paying for it monthly.
mm-hmm,
You pay for like however many gigabytes or whatever, and you own it and it's yours. And they've got
right.
it set up in a way that it's going to last forever. And it's way more complicated than I can explain on our show.
Right.
What it basically means is they do it for like precious memories, for your photos, or for but they also do it for your vital documents, and it's encrypted and it's everything. And so I will put a link to it in the show notes because I had never heard of it before. And
Mm,
I was like, isn't that interesting that
yeah.
we're even that is going, like, things we used to put in a social, like a security, what do you call those? Security
Uh,
box. What's
yeah.
the
A
safe
safety deposit box.
box? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a kiddo and how big of a deal it was to dress up and go to the bank and
Mm-hmm.
go to the safety deposit box. Like,
Who? And it's important to know where to put which things. Not everything stays in the house. Some things get moved. What are those things? Who do you call when stuff happens? I like that though, the hot files. Everybody knows where it is.
or a good example, two people I know and love are moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all know when moves happen, sometimes we lose important stuff,
I'm still
right?
looking for stuff. Yeah.
And it takes
Right.
about a year after you move to get sorted at least. And
Mhm.
so I think that's any of those tips and tricks about how do
Yeah,
we do that, right?
that's a great point.
I love
I
it.
love that.
All right. So Lori she was when we were talking about, she was Revision Financial Services with Financial Wellness. Then we talked to Miriam Jordan at Mosaic, Georgia. Wow, that
Yes.
was a powerful conversation.
Hmm.
And
Yes,
so,
and I remember what she said helped her decompress from the pressures of the roles that she is in work, is walking during lunch, making sure that she does that when she can, her work life balance, and making sure that she's there for events and stuff with her family. And it sounds so simple, but when I first started in my manager journey and I had a planner and schedule requests, I was not using them. I wasn't walking, I wasn't working out, I was half sleep on my days off and going back to work the next day, So it's very important. And I love how something so simple can really help with the weight of things that could be so heavy sometimes.
I was just in a Twitter discussion with a follower because they had reached out. I can't remember if they reached out or I don't know. You know how those things pop up on your phone and
Yeah.
you respond, right?
Yeah.
But it was about somebody had ADHD and we're in crisis. And we're saying, when you're dealing with burnout, when you're dealing with this, what do you do? And one of the things we were talking about is getting back to the fundamentals of good sleep, good food, moving your body, and scheduling your rest. Like, if you are burnout or in a high stress job, like Miriam, she didn't call it high stress, but
Right.
working with survivors of sexual assault is a pretty intense emotional labor.
Yes.
That scheduling those breaks and that downtime is crucial. Like, it's non-negotiable.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
And if we do
Yes.
get off balance, that we look, I mean, you and I were having this conversation before the show. We know we're both out of balance right now.
And you want to know what's funny? You know how I really, really knew, Christine, it wasn't the 32 hours of studying this weekend. It wasn't the 4 hours of travel time. I said, you know what? It was like 36 hours this weekend. It wasn't just 32, but it wasn't that made me realize that maybe I should take a break. It was my gas tank being all the way on E. And I told you, I don't let my gas tank get on E because that's like me being on E. I said, why am I riding my car like down into the ground? I said, you know what? Let me fill up my gas tank and then go rest in between all this other stuff because we're getting too far to the left. All this is important, but we got to stay balanced or it's not sustainable.
Right. And that's the piece, right? Is that we can do that occasionally if you have to do
Right.
a sprint or but you have to be back in balance. And
Yes.
I love that you say that about your gas tank because that's one of my indicators. I mean, before the
Hmm.
pandemic, like if I ran out of gas, which would occasionally happen
Yeah.
when I drove my old truck and the little monitor, that word is not
The
coming out of my mouth.
gauge.
The gas gauge
Yes.
was
Yes.
not working because it was an old truck. I
Hmm.
always knew when I ran out of gas, I was out of balance because I wasn't paying attention to that. So some other indicators are when my mailbox is full and I start getting
Hmm.
texts from people that say your mailbox is full. And so my answer is, well, that's because my life is full. And I don't like, but it
Right.
is there's other indicators. I would be curious to our listeners' indicators of what
Mm.
are their, when do they know they're out of balance? Like, you said your gas gauge is on empty. I said my
Yep.
mailbox is full. So my voicemail mailbox on my phone. So I'm curious what other people would say. What are their indicators? What do they recognize?
I'm glad that you specified that because I thought your neighbors were texting you like, "Hey, your mailbox is full. What's going on? Are you okay?"
I got young adults who live with me now. That
Yeah.
might have used to have been the case when they were little, but now the young adults check the mail. So I don't,
Mm.
but the problem with that is if I don't have a system set up for what happens with that mail when it walks in the house, like I
Yeah.
was talking about with Lori, then there's a problem because you don't,
Mm.
everybody that not just one person is handling it.
Wow. That's a good
So,
point. And see, I hadn't thought about that. And that's one of the reasons I love Women Connected to Wisdom because you ladies give me perspective. I could put that in my back pocket. And then when I have young adults, I can be like, wait a minute, where's my mail at? Let us get a system together now that y'all are checking the mail. And I could be ahead of it. I hadn't even thought about it yet.
right? It
Yeah.
is so interesting. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but the more people you live with, the more systems you need sometimes because you got more people interacting with them, right?
No, I mean, absolutely. The way I think about life now is like a restaurant floor. right? And as a new server at an old restaurant I used to work at, you would start with 3 tables. And first you have to get your section together before you can get bigger sections. And that's kind of how it is. You know, you start as a child in your parents' house. You worry about whatever space you have, even if you share your room with a sibling, even if whatever it is, you worry about your stuff. And then you get older and you have your own space and then you have kids, and it's like more hats up in the air that you're juggling. And the ability for you to be able to juggle those well is also based on how well you juggle one of them. So that's why I'm working on these systems and the discipline, because it gets crazier. It doesn't get easier.
Absolutely. And I would also say it's based too on how well you take care of yourself. Because if
Hmm.
you're not sleeping or eating well or moving, and you're always pouring out to other people, which women are
Yeah.
known to do,
Yes.
right? If
Yes.
you crash and burn or go down, a lot of times the system goes down or has to be
Right.
completely rebuilt or revamped. And so when I'm working with coaching clients, I a lot of times like back it up. Let's not get to the point of system failure, you know.
Mm.
Let's not get to the point of, which in a lot of times is their body's breaking down with an
Right.
illness or let's not get to that point. Let's catch ourselves. What are our indicators? Like, I love that you already know your indicator is if my gas tank's low, something's out of balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you have a list of them. You could be like, nope, I need to wake up at this time, this, and this. And that's important to really be in tune with things.
Right. Well, with interplay, well, you may not know this because I don't know if we've talked about it. So,
Mm.
interplay is one of the modalities I use that uses movement and storytelling and voice. And I'm a certified leader in that system. And I also use it in my coaching practice. And in interplay, we really look at our body data, knowledge, and wisdom. And so, data is little bits and pieces that we get when we're paying attention. Like, we get information all the time. Now, you want to hang out in the data. You don't want to automatically jump to a conclusion. Like, the data may be that you ate Thai food and it didn't agree with your stomach. Now, you don't want
Hmm.
to automatically jump to I hate Thai food, right? But say you eat Thai food a couple of times and that happens every time. That starts to build knowledge. Hey,
Hmm.
every time and I don't want to pick on Thai food. It's one of my favorite foods. So
Love
I should
Thai
pick
food.
something else, right? What do you
Yeah.
love? What's your favorite dish?
In Thai food, right now it's this soft shell crab with the green curry sauce. It was amazing. Okay. That's what I had for my birthday. It was great with the jumbo shrimp.
What?
I gotta go back to this restaurant. That's my favorite right now.
Okay,
Changed
and
my
I
life.
wanna go with you, my friend, because I
It's
don't know that
so
I've ever
good.
had soft shell crab in Thai food. I usually get, like, a
Mm,
chicken with a yellow curry, or I love, pad Thai, like, oh, I just love it
mm,
all. Or the
mm.
coconut soup, I think it's
I
called,
love it.
oh, I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not gonna try to say it. Um, but but yeah, so, you start to get the knowledge, you start to see
Right,
patterns. So
right.
knowledge are the patterns of the bits of data that you're collecting from your life experience. We get knowledge from outside sources and outer authority, but what's your own inner authority about when this happens? And you start to build and see the patterns. And then from those patterns, you can build wisdom. So, like, I started to notice the pattern in my life that I have more energy when I wake up before the sun.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter if I had less sleep. If I wake up before the sun, I have more energy, I feel better, and I might need a nap later in the day if I didn't get my 7.5 hours of sleep, because that's my magic number that I figured out of paying attention to body data and knowledge. But, it's those little things that only you can tell you. Like, somebody else, I can't say, Shannon, you need this amount of sleep because I don't know how much sleep you need.
Right. And I think that what you said is so important. Only you can tell you. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's in relationship questions. We ask questions we already know the answer to. Sometimes that's with our life, that's with our body, that's with a lot of stuff. And so that's what I love about Women Connected in Wisdom, because I know both of our goal is to give women back the confidence to use their voice, the space to pay attention to themselves and look at their lives and think about all of this stuff. But before Corona, I realized I wasn't even looking in the mirror all the way. Like, look, ooh, wait, go back. You didn't even look in the mirror at all. Go look at yourself in the mirror. Like, when was the last time? And I
And say
really
good
had to start
morning.
paying attention and say good morning. When I rub oil on myself, I kiss my shoulders. Got to make sure the lips are moisturized, but it's all of it together.
Well, one of the gifts of this weekend when we did, I told somebody, I was texting somebody that we were doing a Monday manifesting retreat. And I said, let me change that. We did a Monday manifesting intensive because let me not give
Mm.
the wrong impression. There was one moment of retreatness, and
Yeah.
that was when you brought out your Shalo Glow oil and butter and gave us all foot massages. And I was blown away. I mean, first of all, I've used your products since you started because I love your products. But
Thank you.
you taught me something this weekend because the whole thing about how you layer. Do you want to tell our listeners about that? Because
Sure.
it was
Yeah,
awesome.
and I didn't know either. So I love using the oil first, right? In the steps, it's exfoliate. That's where we're taking off the dead skin cells. Then you're going to repair what is it called, Lord? The moisture barrier. Yeah, the moisture barrier on your skin. And I do that with the oil. I love using the oil first because it's lightweight. And then when you put on the butter, and this is what Christine is talking about, you don't need as much because your skin isn't dry. So it's not deep, it's not reaching into the deepest caves of the cracks. It's just going on top and sealing it in.
Oh, and you just, I don't know, like felt like $1,000,000 afterwards, right?
Yeah,
And you look great, you moisturize. Like I know you got pics, so you got to share them on our social media
yes,
or
yes.
or tag us on your Shayla Glow post. Tag
I
Women
have
Connected
it.
Wisdom, so folks
Hmm.
can see the difference. And just that little bit. I mean, what it was it? 5 minutes, 10 minutes a piece,
Yeah, yeah.
and we all felt amazing afterwards. So that was the retreat part of our 32 hours.
I'll take it. I'll take at least a little bit, yes. But I'm so glad that you ladies enjoyed it.
Right? Well, I think, I know we're laughing about it, but the
Mhm.
reality is a lot of times women don't have an hour to go somewhere or they don't have 2 hours. So what can you do for self-care in a minute or
Yes,
5 minutes? When I'm
yes.
teaching classes, we talk about that. Like if you have less than a minute, you can take a moment to take a deep breath and ground. Cecile
Mhm.
talked about that in physical wellness and
Yeah,
really breathe in, you
yeah.
know, Whew. And in interplay, we talk about shaking it out, right? Taking it,
Yeah.
shaking it out, and basically getting rid of some of that stress, like consciously letting it out of your body.
Yeah.
And there's different ways because the reality is a lot of times when we think about self-care, we think about a vacation or we think
Mhm.
about going to the spa or we think about, what we see on TV about self-care. But in reality, self-care is everyday decisions and incremental steps to not put ourselves last,
Mhm.
right? To not put
Yes.
ourselves last. So, yeah, so we also talked to Shannon Ivy from the What She Said project over for yeah, she was intellectual wisdom,
Yes,
is
she
what we
was.
talked to Shannon about, and her Girls Right camp. That was really
Mm.
cool.
Yes. Yes, and the bounce, how to bounce after difficult situations and make sure that you're well.
Right? Yeah. I love that work. I Almost every woman we've talked to in some form or fashion is giving back to their community and has a project they're doing or they have a group they're doing. That's probably, I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably one of the reasons they come to our attention. And we know they're quality guests because they are doing the things, right? They're
Right,
taking care of
right.
self, they're taking care of community, and they're making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it's also, and I don't like to necessarily always categorize off of gender, but it's also a strength that women do. What we're going to do and put out is automatically going to benefit other things because we know that if I'm doing something outside of that house, it has to benefit me and my family as well. So I think that's just the way we think and the way it ends up being a lot of time naturally.
Right. I would love our listeners, if they're listening, to tag us on social media with their community care project. Like if you
Mm,
have something that you're doing in the world that's awesome and it's for your community, tag us and
yes.
do hashtag community care. And we will lift you up, because that's what this show is about. When we first started the show at the beginning of the year, we talked about giving a platform for women's voices and uplifting women who might not get heard otherwise. And I can't think of one guest that we've had that
Mm,
hasn't just been awesome. Our
right.
last guest of this season, Kyra Jewell, last week, whoa, right?
Yes.
She used to
Yes.
be a Buddhist nun for Thich Nhat Hanh. Like, that's incredible. She's been in some places in the world that I'd never even heard of until we had a conversation.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And talking about the difference each of us can make in our
Hmm.
environmental wellness.
Yeah. Yeah. And really making sure what I love about the season two is when Cynthia was talking about the inner ally.
Mhm.
And we talked more about the difference between self-kindness and self-compassion. And I hadn't realized, although I had been thinking about the types of words that I said to myself, I wasn't necessarily compassionate. I wasn't as supportive as I could have been. I wasn't as um maybe I don't know all the words yet, but I love the way she put that. And that's really helped me have more grace when things don't go to plan and everything else that we've been talking about.
Well, it's also helped you call me out on my stuff, because I
Oh,
heard
yeah, that's
you a
true.
couple times go, "Hey, where's your inner ally?" Or,
Where
"Hey,
did she
don't
go?
talk to my friend Christine that way." Because
No.
sometimes when I'm under stressed or overwhelmed, I realize, like, I give myself a hard time. And which I
Hmm.
think a lot of people do. I think that's, pretty common. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that, because we were working together on some stuff this weekend, and you were like, "Where's your inner ally?" And I knew exactly what you were talking about, and one popped into my head. Yes, Cynthia,
Mm,
I noticed on her social media, she's got an inner forgiveness class coming up on July 31st.
mm.
So we'll put that in the show notes, because, and if you go, tell her Women Connected in Wisdom sent you,
Yes,
and give us a shout out. But I think it's like a 4-hour mini retreat on inner forgiveness.
that's
And
really important.
yeah, I'm thinking about
Yeah,
going if my schedule lets me, because,
right.
you know, and she's
Yeah.
always got really good, doable steps. You know how sometimes somebody will say, "Oh, do this," but they don't tell you how to do it?
It's one of my biggest pet peeves. That's why we have this podcast, so I can not be like that. And actually help people. Like, this is actually how you do it. Yes.
Right? So,
Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
we had a good season, my friend.
We really did. We really did.
I would love if our listeners, when you listen to this show, if you give us a shout out about what was your favorite episode. And you can find all the episodes on our social media or on our website, womenconnectedinwisdompodcast.com. And you can tell us, which one was your favorite? Who do you want maybe to come on again? Because, Tracy Reese, that was her second time to be on. She was our first repeat guest, but she doesn't
Mm.
have to be our last repeat guest. So we could do that too. What do you think about that, Shannon?
No, I love that. I love it. I don't think that we always have to have new guests. The conversation is never long enough. That's one. And our guests do so much that there's so many different sides of projects and of themselves as people that we could talk about that I think we could both benefit from, and so could our listeners. That's the beauty of it. And that's why I love our community, so that we don't have to just wait for these shows. We don't have to just wait for um, an opportunity to speak to somebody at a coffee and chat when we originally meet them before we bring them on. We can genuinely be in community with them. And Women Connected in Wisdom, they could teach classes. We could take classes together. We can talk about all of the dimensions of wellness or even specific things that are going on and support each other through them. Because yeah, before, I feel like when you're younger, you have all this time and you're always with your friends. And then when you get older, you start working, and that is not always encouraged outside of drinking or hanging out socially at a party. It's not like, hey, when was the last time you and your friends had a support group around your emotions? That doesn't always happen, but I think that it's definitely needed, and not just emotionally and mentally, but for every category, financial, occupational, and that's why I love it.
Right. So, if you are listening and looking for a community where you can be connected, well resourced, where you can learn new things if you want to, or show up and teach things, then come find us on Mighty Networks. We are at womenconnectedinwisdom.com, and come join our community and hang out with us. And we're gonna have some, we're thinking about a lot of new things, so we're gonna have some new updates in there pretty soon. That was part of this last weekend's work. One of the things we're thinking about that I think I don't know, you know me, Shannon, I get excited about all of it, but one of the things that we're thinking about that I'm most excited about is a Women Connected in Wisdom book.
Yes.
And we are thinking about inviting up to 40. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Because we know so many incredible women. I don't know if we can keep it at 40. But what we're looking at is inviting women to join us to write a chapter of a book on their favorite wellness, whether that's emotional wellness, financial wellness, whether that's social wellness. So all the 8 dimensions of wellness, and have really incredible women share their story. Because I'm a reader, you're a reader. Yes, we like podcasts and we like videos, but we love books. So how cool would it be this time next year to have a Women Connected in Wisdom book and do a conference?
I would be so excited. You understand how excited I would be to hold a physical book with my name on it? Like, it's
Right?
historical. Yes.
Well, your shirt today, for the listeners that are listening and not seeing, says happy. Oh,
Happy.
look, and she's got her heels on.
Yes. It's the way to wear heels without having to wear heels.
I need one of those shirts. I gave up heels a long time ago, but those are some sassy heels. I like them. I like them a lot. Yeah. There's so many things coming down. I am so excited. Well, before, I know we're getting close to time, but talk about this season. We announced 2 Shayros on the show, and chat about what Shayros are, and let's give another shout out to our Shayros this season.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, ladies, Shayros are what we've been talking about. Somebody who connects you to the community, somebody who connects their family, but might not always take the step to make themselves a priority, right? And she has an option of products, so that's what I love. You get to choose. Nothing's forced on you, right? Do you prefer exfoliation? Is that what she would like to do? Do you think that she wants a lighter layer of moisture instead of thicker shea butter? The oil would be great for that. Or if she loves shea butter and you know that she loves mango, then the mango madness will be perfect to make sure that she has long lasting all day moisture. But she's going to win based on your nominations. So we accept nominations through shayloglow@gmail.com. Email with the subject title My Shayro. Give the reason for your nomination and who she is. I'll reach out to her and see what she would like. But I love doing that. A lot of times we think about how much somebody adds to our life when they pass away. But the point is to make a priority now, like we've been talking about. How can we do it in little ways every day? So not only for you, but for the person that does it for the community. That is our Shayro, and we want to make sure that we honor her by making sure she takes care of herself. I can't hear you, Christine.
Well, that's because I muted myself.
I saw the finger.
Thank you for catching that. I was going to say the ones we talked about in season 3 were who got nominated and pulled out of the hat. Carolyn Renee was a guest on our first season. She was the executive director over at Arts Exchange, and that makes me think about you and I are going to be at the Arts Exchange. They're having a Reimagine Democracy Art and Justice Festival Saturday, July 24th and Sunday, July 25th. And we're going to be over there doing a workshop on Connected in Wisdom. We'd love for you to join us in person and meet us in person. And Shayla Glow will have a booth there so you can get some product while you're there. So yeah, like we have some fun stuff happening.
Yes. And the second one, the latest Shayro was or is Shannon Ivy, who was just on our page. And again, that was for her giving voice to the young ladies, inspiring them to write their stories out, and intentionally creating a space where they can do that in a safe way and continue as they follow her footsteps into entertainment, writing, or whatever they want to do.
Ah, so cool. One more event I want to give a shout out to before we leave. If anybody's listening, I know it is Wednesday because that's when we go live. And if you're listening after, it'll be Thursday too. But, you know, Sunday, this Sunday coming up, I am part of a mini retreat called Journey to the Center of Yourself. And it's going to include a labyrinth walk. It's going to include Carolyn Renee is one of my co-facilitators. So it's going to include some of the Egyptian yoga that she talked about on the show. My friend Monisha, I am going to butcher Monisha's last name. So I'm not going to say it because I don't do that. My friend Monisha is coming in from DC, Virginia area and bringing her wisdom. And of course, we're going to be doing some interplay. So if anybody is interested in that, I will put it in the show notes and you can check it out on Eventbrite too. So yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, there's just so much popping in this community. And it really is. It is.
It throws me off every time you say popping.
Am I using that term wrong? Because like
you use it right.
Okay,
you use it right. You know, I would tell you if you're out here looking crazy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I count on you for that, my friend. I totally count on you for that.
Yes, of course.
So, all right, y'all. I don't know. I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to our listeners. I'm grateful to you, Shannon, as my co-host. And
thank you so much.
I'm just delighted to be a part of this in this community.
And you know I love you and I appreciate the opportunity. I love what we do. And even if nobody ever listens, even though we know we have listeners, I think it's for the benefit of the ladies. You know, we got to hold the door open, so it's worth it.
Well, I know it's I love you too. And it's the benefit of when we talk about this, we do it because we don't want to be hypocritical. So this hour and more goes into it. Anybody that does a podcast, you know, more goes into it than the hour you see us on here. But this hour reminds us to
be well and be wise and be whole. Yes. And we will see you ladies next week at 5 for season 4.